For the longest time, I always believed that the most important resource in the world is oil. I still do believe that oil plays an essential role in modern society. It's utilized and found in almost every sector of the global economy. It powers our automobiles, our power plants, our plastics are made from it, and it is an important component in the makeup of our roads. Despite this, it's increasingly becoming apparent to me that iron may be more important than oil, if not equally important. I know this is a bold claim, but the story begins from here. I stumbled on a video of a railway in the Sahara Desert, in the country of Mauritania to be exact. The train on this railway is massive, and it's very clear that its purpose isn't to transport people. Its aim, as can be clearly seen, is to transport ores out of Mauritania. This took me down a rabbit hole, and by rabbit hole, I mean Wikipedia. This railway is the Mauritania Railway, and it is 437 miles long with the singular purpose of connecting the iron mines of Mauritania to the port city of Nouadhibou, which explains the lack of seats. The train contains over 200 cars, with each car carrying upwards to 84 tons of iron ore. That's about a half of a blue whale in each car being hauled across the deserts of Mauritania. This was the moment for me, and so I dove into further research about Mauritania's iron industry. Mauritania is within the top 20 iron ore producers in the world, and it ranks within the bottom 5 of this list. If Mauritania alone is hauling what amounts to be an estimated 13 million tons or 86,666 blue whales worth of iron ore each year, how much is being mined in other countries and just how much is the industry worth? The top 5 iron mining companies together produce around 2.1 billion metric tons of iron ore each year. This is a lot of iron ore being mined from the earth. Using our whale comparison from earlier, this would be around 14.6 million whales being mined out of the earth every single year. The countries contributing heavily to this production are Australia, Brazil, China, India, and Russia. Each of these countries are producing over 100 million tons of iron ore a year. And when you look at the top 5 iron mining companies in the world, all of them can be found headquartered or mining in one of these countries. There's Vale, a Brazilian mining company producing around 300 million tons of iron ore, largely from the Carajás mine in Brazil. Rio Tinto, an Anglo-Australian mining company producing around 290 million tons of iron, largely from the Pilbara region in Australia. BHP, another Australia-based mining company producing around 250 million tons of iron from the Pilbara region as well. There's also the Fortescue Metals Group, another mining company in Australia producing around 205 million tons of iron ore each year. And finally, there's Anglo American, headquartered in Johannesburg and London and producing 60 million tons of iron each year, predominantly from the Sishen and Kolomela mines in South Africa and the Minas Rio mines in Brazil. It's definitely no coincidence that these giant mining companies seem to be mining from the same area. Australia, Brazil, China, India, and Russia are simply hotspots for a rather stunning geologic formation known as banded iron formations. Banded iron formations are extremely rich in iron content. Most of these formations are made up of iron-rich minerals like hematite and magnetite. These minerals, when mined as ores, have iron content as high as 70%, with the remaining 30% being mostly oxygen. The reason why Australia and Brazil have such a large amount of these rock formations is purely due to geologic processes. These banded iron formations were formed in the early days of the Earth, and while the United States is not within the top 5 iron-producing countries, it's still within the top 10 and was at one point producing iron ore in the hundreds of millions. Most of this was mined around Lake Superior, and so Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota became the de facto mining hub in the United States. With iron, America was able to engage in extensive infrastructure projects to make America what it is today. To understand this, we need to understand what iron is used for. If you look around, it will be easy to spot how iron is used. It's found in cooking utensils, common household items, and it makes up the skeleton of our automobiles and buildings. To give a better picture of how common iron is, it needs to be mentioned that of all the metals used in modern industrial society, a whopping 95% of it is iron. This is because iron can be modified into steel, the second strongest metal on the planet. With steel, the durability and strength of iron is massively increased. This alloy of iron is found everywhere and is the most common and most used form of iron in the world. After all, of all the 2.2 billion tons of iron mined each year, around 98% goes into steel making. The process of steel making is rather straightforward. When iron is mined as an ore, that ore is mostly oxygen and iron. And so to isolate this iron by itself, carbon-heavy rocks like coal is heated alongside this ore to isolate the oxygen to produce carbon dioxide. This leaves behind just iron, which can be left as is or can be modified into alloys. For steel, this modification comes in the form of adding more coal or coke, increasing the heat, and adding other elements like nickel, chromium, boron, or manganese depending on the type of steel grade. With steel, America and the rest of the world that had the means to engage in producing it in large quantities went on to use it to build their societies. If you look upon cities like New York, Chicago, Tokyo, London, Berlin, and countless other cities as they are today, cities that are constantly changing and evolving and built into the future on the solid foundations of steel, the importance of iron becomes more transparent. Without iron, we wouldn't have extensive rail lines, the incredible structures built all over the world, most of the daily items we use, and the machines of war-powerful countries have in their arsenal. Some may argue that iron is important, but not as important as oil. But the truth is that without iron, the need for oil would be rather non-existent. After all, of all the oil produced in the world, around 70% goes into transportation. And as we all know, our automobiles and our transportation systems require steel to function to the degree they do in modern society. Simply put, without iron and its alloy steel, modern society would simply not be.